So you have a child that's 3, 4, 5, or even older, and they are not yet toilet trained. What do you do? Firstly, what I'd like to say is that my son is 5 and he's not yet toilet trained. And although I started this summer because I felt that it was the right time, and also he was showing signs that it was uncomfortable for him actually going to the toilet in his pull-ups. So I tried over the whole 6 weeks and it didn't happen, and I'll try again whenever he is ready. Okay. Firstly, it's not about your child refusing to be toilet trained. Okay. It could be something like dysregulation, or it could be just fear, or the child is just not ready. Okay. If you think about it and break it down, most people's toilets or bathrooms, they can feel quite cold or loud, depending on how you decorate it. It can be quite echoey and, unpredictable for your child with additional needs. And also, some children just don't recognize their bodily signals yet. So although I felt, and I said that, my son was starting to feel uncomfortable, going to the toilet in his pants, in his pull-ups. Whenever I put him on the toilet, he wouldn't go. I mean, I could sit there with him. So, I had this plan in place where my bathroom was a calm space, and I put like some toys in there, and it was warm and it was nice and everything. And I felt, okay, I'm going to have to be in there with him. So I had a little beanbag on the floor and I could sit with him, and I would sit there and I would sing like nursery rhymes because he loves singing, and I would intermittently just check in the toilet if he'd done anything, and he would sit there. He could sit there for maybe 10 minutes or so and he wouldn't do anything. But then when I take him off and I might put on his pants, his big boy pants, okay, he'll wet them. Okay, and I was like, okay, what's happening here? Why isn't he going on the toilet? And I just realized that he couldn't connect the two. He couldn't connect sitting on the toilet and having to use it. He thought, when he was, I don't know, in his pants, in his clothes, in his nappy, he would just go. And we're not quite there yet. And for me, I have no time scale. When he's ready, he's ready. For as long as I can buy nappies, he will be in nappies. I will work with the school that he's in when, they can also support that as well, because I think that there's no point me trying to toilet train him of a late afternoon and an evening and possibly the weekend when the majority of the day he's at school. So I think just having that working relationship with the school where, if they can work with me and put him on their little toilets at different times of the day, then eventually, he will get there. So what are the reasons for resistance? So we've touched on a couple before. It could be just a sensory issue. So with the toilet, you flush, he's sitting on probably a cold or a hard toilet seat. Again, that could cause sensory issues. And what's the temperature of your toilet or your bathroom? Does it ensure that your child is comfortable? What about the smells? Not necessarily unpleasant smells, but it could be, maybe your plug-in or just your air freshener that sits in the bathroom just to give it a pleasant smell all day long. But actually, is that causing like sensory dysregulation to your child? Is it too overpowering for them? So for us who are neurotypical, it's pleasant walking into a space and it just smells of roses and vanilla and, you know, whatever your sort of scents are. But actually for a child with additional needs, that could be overwhelming for them. So again, you might want to think about that. Thirdly, you know, is using the toilet part of their routine? So, you know, we've spoken about transitions and doing things differently, but how can you incorporate going to the bathroom or using the toilet into their routine? And again, you might want to think about visuals that you could use and storyboards, just to ensure that your child understands what is happening and making that part of their day. And I've touched on this, I suppose, this interoception where it's hard for them to feel when they need to go. You know, as I said, you know, I would put my son on the toilet and he will have, let's say, he drinks a lot, which is great. You know, he'll drink from morning till like non-stop. And usually like when he's got his nappy on, it's soaking wet. So me putting him on the toilet, I would think, yeah, he's going to go. But actually, is he holding it? Sometimes I think that he's actually holding wanting to use the toilet because he's not quite sure what's going on, or, you know, what he should do here. So when I take him off, when I put his big boy pants on or put his pull-ups on, he's thinking, okay, well, I know what this is for, but I'm not actually sure, you know, what I do when I'm on the toilet. And although when I go to the bathroom, because my son is very much attached to me, he'll sit outside, there's only so much that I'm willing to show him, you know. So he understands, yes, we go to the toilet, but actually, does he know what we do on there? You know, there's all these questions that I have, and I just think for myself, it's just going to take some time. So what are some tips that might be able to work for your child and that I've also incorporated? And the first one is a desensitization, meaning that let them sit on the toilet fully clothed. And when I saw this and I heard a parent say this, I was thinking, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, you know, your child is used to their nappy, aren't they? They know what to do, they know when it's on. So when they might give you signs that they may want to, I don't know, go to the toilet, do a number two. When they're ready to do that, put them on the toilet with their clothes on, with their nappy on. And if they feel comfortable enough to go, then they'll understand that that's what the toilet is for. You could then empty the contents of the nappy into the toilet, let them see what you're doing, and then that will get them to understand what they need to do. I've spoken before about, you know, a visual schedule of each step. Again, that's just aiding their communication. Do you have the means to warm up the seat? Maybe offering them that may just ease in their comfort and just sort of satisfy any sort of sensory issues that they may have. You could try noise cancelling headphones. Now, that may not just be for noise. I know that sounds ridiculous, but sometimes, again, it's just blocking out any unwanted noise that's about, you know, and just giving them a sense of calm. So if your child can tolerate the noise cancelling headphones, again, you might want to try that, giving them some sort of control. So what wipes do they want to use? You know, is there a timer or a little toy or a game that you can play? You know, giving them that sense of control and input into the training may also assist. So what not to rush? Don't rush into 100% full dryness, okay? They're still going to have accidents, okay? Just extend yourself and your child some grace, okay? Don't rush into anything. They will eventually get there. And also nighttime dryness. You may just want to maybe put mattress protector on, or, you know, something that may protect them when they're sleeping, because the nighttime dryness is not going to come immediately, okay? You know, finally, please don't force them to sit on the toilet. Just, it has to be something, okay, for us it's a needs thing, okay, but for them it just needs to be comfortable, okay? So if I put my son on the toilet and he jumps off immediately, then he's not ready to use the toilet. I could try and encourage him to go back on, but if he's run off and I think, okay, it's just not worth him having a tantrum or, you know, biting me or doing something else, or just for him to feel really awful about it, it's just not worth it. It really isn't for me, okay? And I think it's just going back to what I said in the beginning, that there is no timeline, there's no time scale here. No one says that a child has to be toilet trained by X time. And I'm talking about children with additional needs here, okay? I'm not talking about neurotypical children. And even with like my older child, who's now 13, it took me a while to toilet train him. You know, he was going on to reception, so he would have been 4.5, sort of 5, and I remember specifically the school sort of reaching out to parents and saying that please ensure that your child is toilet trained before they come to school. That was obviously back in the day. And you know, I know that I used the summer to get him into that routine of using the toilet and being fully toilet trained. And even when he started school, I still packed like spare pants, etc. in his bag, because, you know, he was still sort of like 4.5, and I know that he did struggle with that as well. So for me, it's, especially with my youngest with additional needs, it's, yeah, we'll get round to it. It really is a case of that I'm not rushing it. It's something that, yeah, it's always going to be in the back of my mind. He will get there. He's just turned 5 years old. He's just started in his special school. He's pre-verbal. You know, I'm just giving him some grace. There's other things that, you know, I'm working on with him. If he's still going to be sort of like tearing off his nappy. So a couple of months ago, when he used to use the nappy and he did a number 2, he wouldn't even wait a second. Literally, he would tear off the nappy, and I didn't even have a chance to change him. Like literally, I'll turn around and he would be smearing the walls and the floor. It was that chaotic. And, you know, I'm pleased to say now that has calmed down. And for me, that was the point where I felt, okay, maybe we should try the toilet training. But actually, it didn't work. And, you know, we're coming up to the Christmas holidays now. I may or may not try with him then. It just really depends. But I think for me, I'm just constantly looking at the signs. You know, he will tell me in his own way. He'll communicate to me when he's ready. Are there odd times when I put him on the toilet? Yes, there are. It may not be part of an actual toilet training schedule or plan that I have, but yes, I let him get used to it. I make sure that both my bathrooms are comfortable for him. You know, my home is adapted for him, okay? So all I want to say to you is that don't feel that you're alone in this, okay? You deserve support. I'm here if you'd like to speak with me. If you want to book an appointment, you and I can have a conversation. You can do that by booking through the link in the description below.